The Young and the Restless spoilers Thurdays full February 20th, 2025. A dinner of deceit and hidden agendas. Victor had long been the mastermind of manipulation within the Newman dynasty. Relentlessly determined to keep Claire and Kyle apart, he had orchestrated every move to ensure they never found common ground. Now, in a twist that few could have foreseen, the very man who had worked so hard to drive a wedge between them was hosting a lavish dinner, inviting both Claire and Kyle to the table. It was an event shrouded in tension, where every smile and courteous remark was laced with an undercurrent of betrayal. Among the guests was Summer, whose eyes burned with fury and disbelief. She had always believed that her grandfather would stand by her and Kyle, supporting their union and shielding them from the poisonous politics that haunted the Newman name. Instead, Victor's sudden shift, this overt support for Claire, felt like the ultimate betrayal. Summer's jealousy was palpable as she watched from the sidelines, her features etched with anguish. She knew that this dinner wasn't a simple gesture of goodwill, it was yet another calculated move in Victor's game, a move meant to consolidate power at the expense of those he once promised to protect. Unable to shake the feeling of betrayal, Summer was forced to remain an unwilling spectator. She watched every word, every subtle glance exchanged between Claire and Kyle, meticulously taking mental notes of their conversation. What were they planning? How would this alliance, seemingly nurtured by Victor's deceptive hospitality, affect the fragile equilibrium of the family? With each passing moment, Summer's mind churned with schemes of her own, schemes she vowed to put into motion once the conversation concluded. Though she could not intervene tonight, she was determined to use every scrap of information gleaned from this dinner to ensure that her own position in the family would not be further undermined. Across town, another drama was unfolding that threatened to further destabilize the already volatile network of relationships in Genoa City. Billy, ever the cautious strategist, found himself in a tense standoff with Daniel. In a stern conversation filled with unspoken warnings, Billy made it clear Daniel was not to get too close to Sally. "Stay away, Daniel," Billy cautioned, his tone a mix of protective instinct and simmering resentment. "If you even think about crossing that line, you'll leave me no choice but to settle this by any means necessary." Billy's words, heavy with the promise of impending conflict, hung in the air. His message was clear: any move that endangered his relationship with Sally would spark a confrontation that neither side could afford. But Daniel, whose heart was set on rewriting his own story, paid little heed to Billy's threats. He harbored a secret hope, one that pulsed quietly in his chest, that Sally would signal to him her desire for something different, something genuine that could eclipse the bitterness of her current predicament. Daniel believed that Sally's discontent with Billy was more than just an offhand grievance. It was an opening, a chance for him to step into a role where he could finally offer her the respect and admiration she longed for. Every look, every subtle gesture he shared with Sally was laden with meaning, a silent conversation that spoke of opportunities beyond the constraints of the past. Adding to the maelstrom of emotions was the complex dynamic between Phyllis and Billy. The two were deeply entwined, not just by history but by the numerous joint ventures and projects that kept them tethered together day after day. Their professional partnership had become so inseparable that any attempt to untangle their relationship seemed not only impractical but potentially disastrous. Yet, within the confines of this closely knit arrangement, a significant rift had begun to form. Sally, frustrated by Billy's unwillingness to part ways with Phyllis, found herself at odds with him. To Sally, Billy's failure to take decisive action, like firing Phyllis, was a glaring sign of his misplaced priorities. She felt that by continually placating Phyllis, Billy was indirectly dismissing her needs and her rightful place by his side. The disagreement wasn't just about professional alliances, it was a manifestation of deeper emotional wounds that had been festering for far too long. As the dinner at Victor's mansion reached its crescendo, each character's inner world collided with the outward display of civility. Claire and Kyle exchanged guarded smiles and measured words, both aware that every conversation could be loaded with double meanings. Victor watched them all like a chess master, his eyes gleaming with the satisfaction of having set his intricate plan into motion. His motivations were as opaque as ever. Was this dinner truly a bid for reconciliation, or was it another step in his relentless pursuit of power? Even as the night progressed, the questions remained unanswered, each guest left to wonder what their next move would be in this dangerous game. In a quiet corner of the opulent dining room, Summer leaned in close to a trusted confidant. Her voice was barely a whisper as she plotted her next steps. "I won't let him move Victor, destroy everything we've built," she vowed, her eyes hardening with determination. "If Claire and Kyle are going to conspire against us, then I will ensure that their every word is recorded and used against them. I'm not powerless in this family, not anymore." Her plan was simple yet risky: observe, record, and then strike when the time was right. Summer knew that in a family where betrayal was the norm, knowledge was the ultimate weapon. Meanwhile, Billy's warning to Daniel resonated in a tense silence that spoke of old wounds and unhealed scars. Daniel's defiant stance hinted at a brewing confrontation. A promise of more explosive drama on the horizon. He clutched a worn photograph of happier times, a reminder of why he believed that genuine affection could still conquer the bitterness that had long poisoned relationships. In his heart, he was ready to challenge fate itself, even if it meant facing Billy in a clash that could redefine the boundaries of loyalty and love. Yet, as the night wore on, the convergence of these tangled lives underscored a simple truth: in Genoa City, no alliance was ever as solid as it seemed, and no promise was ever kept without a hidden price. Victor's dinner was more than a mere social event, it was a battleground where secrets were weaponized, and every smile concealed ulterior motives. Summer's seething jealousy, Billy's guarded warnings, Daniel's quiet defiance, and Sally's desperate need for validation all converged in one moment, setting the stage for a future where every choice could lead to irrevocable consequences. As the last course was served and the guests began to depart, the mansion's opulent halls echoed with the unspoken promise of retribution and change. Each character, now isolated in their private thoughts, braced for the inevitable fallout. Would Summer finally take control of her destiny, or would she be crushed under the weight of betrayal? Could Daniel ever truly break free from Billy's shadow, and would Sally find the strength to assert her own worth amid the chaos? In the end, the night was a reminder that in this intricate tapestry of power, love, and deception, every relationship was a fragile construct waiting to shatter. With Victor's manipulations still in play and loyalties constantly shifting like the sands, the future of each intertwined soul remained uncertain. All that was clear, however, was that the next move in this high-stakes game would be the one to define everything, whether it led to redemption, ruin, or an entirely new order in the treacherous realm of Genoa City. The corridors of Genoa City buzzed with renewed intrigue as Lily and Damian started appearing together in public. The two had been spotted on more than one occasion, at society fundraisers, upscale restaurants, and even quick coffee runs in the early morning hours. Though they seemed friendly enough, rumors flew at breakneck speed, fueling speculation that something deeper lay beneath their congenial facade. Fans of the long-running family dynasties in town found themselves torn between excitement for fresh intrigue and skepticism toward Damian's sudden closeness to Lily. Yet, these rumors did not catch Lily by surprise. She had a plan and was well aware that stepping into the spotlight with a mysterious newcomer would raise eyebrows. In fact, that was the point. With various power plays afoot between rival families, Lily had concluded that forging a strategic connection, especially with someone like Damian, could keep her at the center of crucial deals and pivotal choices. She was no stranger to corporate or personal entanglements, and if aligning with Damian gave her an advantage, then so be it. Devon's warning: not everyone shared Lily's confidence. Across town, Devon looked on in growing concern. He had watched Lily navigate countless personal and professional storms, heartbreaks, business expansions, moments of soaring success, and times of dire vulnerability. From a brother's standpoint, Devon felt compelled to speak up, particularly when an unfamiliar figure like Damian stepped onto the scene. "Lily," Devon began in a low, urgent tone as they stood in the hallway outside a bustling office suite, "I'm not trying to run your life. You know that. But everything about Damian seems unsettling. We don't know his history, where he's really from, who he's connected to. All I'm saying is, be cautious. Sometimes the most charming newcomers have the darkest secrets." Lily smiled with a calm confidence that betrayed little of her inner turmoil. I appreciate your concern, Devon, but I know what I'm doing. Believe me, I've been around long enough to spot a hidden agenda from miles away. Devon's voice grew softer, though it brimmed with urgency. Being able to spot an agenda doesn't always mean you can protect yourself from it. For the sake of everyone who cares about you, just be careful. You don't want to find yourself ensnared in someone else's vendetta. With a reassuring nod, Lily left Devon in the hallway, but his words lingered with her. Even if she trusted her own instincts, she couldn't ignore the possibility that Devon, who had an uncanny gift for discerning people's motivations, might be onto something. Damian's enigma Damian, for his part, cut a striking figure in Genoa City. He was well-spoken, carried himself with an air of quiet authority, and seemed effortlessly at home in the city's most exclusive venues. Despite his outward confidence, few knew much about his past. Some whispered that he had once been a formidable player in overseas business, while others speculated that he carried political connections that reached far beyond the city limits. Every rumor only stoked the fires of curiosity, especially Lily's. And yet, in moments of unguarded conversation, Damian displayed a disarming sincerity that contrasted sharply with the caution people advised Lily to maintain. Their bond, whatever it was becoming, appeared genuine enough to survive the weight of gossip and conjecture. Lily was resolved, if Damian had secrets, she would uncover them on her own terms, and if those secrets could be leveraged in her favor, all the better. Victor's mission: defeat Jack and Jabot at all costs. While Lily's social entanglements captured some headlines, the larger power struggle between Victor Newman and Jack Abbott remained the talk of the town. Decades of rivalry had taught them both to strike hard and fast whenever opportunity arose. In the opulent penthouse office that bore the Newman name in gilded letters, Victor held court with his closest advisor, Michael Baldwin. We must crush Jack, him and his precious Jabot, once and for all, Victor declared, his voice low and menacing. You know as well as I do, Michael, that leaving him a shred of power is a mistake. We take everything from him. Understand? The sharp glint in Victor's eyes left Michael in no doubt about his employer's resolve. Victor, Michael said carefully, we need a plan that ensures minimal legal blowback. The last thing we want is a drawn-out battle in court. You say at all costs, but we have to be realistic. Victor silenced him with a mere wave of the hand. There is no alternative. Jack Abbott has meddled in my affairs for the last time. I will see him on his knees if it's the last thing I do. Staring into the middle distance, Victor envisioned the sweet victory of watching Jack's empire crumble. It wasn't just business, it was personal. And for Victor, personal vendettas often outweighed any prudent considerations. Jealousy and grudges, Victor's suspicions about Nikki and Jack in this reignited feud. Nikki Newman found herself, once again, the unwitting flashpoint of Victor's wrath. She and Jack shared a history that was complicated at best, scandalous at worst, one that involved close calls, an almost friendship that verged on romance, and many emotional entanglements that were never fully resolved. Even though Nikki insisted that whatever had existed between her and Jack was long over, Victor refused to believe it. Jealousy coiled around Victor's heart like a venomous snake. He harbored a conviction that Nikki and Jack maintained some clandestine, dark relationship that threatened the sanctity of his world. Never mind that no tangible evidence supported this, the mere whisper of such a possibility was enough to keep Victor's hatred alive. Time and again, other family members and associates tried to dissuade him, pointing out how old these fears were, how no real foundation underpinned them. But Victor would not be swayed. You can all talk until you're blue in the face, Victor growled at one family gathering. I know what I've seen, what I've felt. Nikki and Jack share a bond they keep hidden. That's why we must break him, and by extension, break any hold he has on her. The onlookers, Victoria, Nick, Abby, exchanged worried glances. They recognized that once Victor latched onto a theory, no matter how baseless, he would follow it to the bitter end. Summer's eyes on Lily and Damian amid the swirling tensions at Newman Enterprises, other eyes had turned toward Lily's movements with Damian. Summer, who had her own vantage point in the corporate maze and familial entanglements, felt her suspicions peak whenever Lily and Damian appeared together. She had watched Damian attempt to ingratiate himself with decision-makers across the city, and Lily's involvement only heightened her curiosity. Summer had learned from past experience that alliances formed in the shadows often held the power to reshape families and fortunes overnight. "I don't trust that guy," she confided to Phyllis during a tense coffee break. "We've seen too many outsiders walk into Genoa City, promise the moon, then leave us with chaos. Lily's smart, but something about Damian rubs me the wrong way." Phyllis, who was rarely at a loss for words, simply shrugged, her wry smile hinting that she, too, intended to keep her distance. For now, anyway. Billy's ultimatum to Daniel. Elsewhere, Billy found himself engaged in a much smaller, more personal standoff, one that, however, threatened to become explosive. He cornered Daniel in the hallway of a newly renovated office suite with a warning that was anything but subtle. Billy suspected Daniel was circling closer to Sally, a woman Billy hadn't exactly treated as a top priority in recent weeks. Between his various entanglements, some with Phyllis, Billy had put Sally on emotional standby one time too many. Now, he found himself worried that Sally might heed Daniel's overtures. And so, Billy issued a stark ultimatum: "If you even think about making a move on Sally, you and I are going to have a problem." Billy seethed, his voice just above a whisper. "I've got enough on my plate without you complicating things." Daniel, however, refused to back down. He stared Billy down, unwavering. "It's not about making a move. It's about seeing if there's something real between Sally and me, something you've been too blind or too busy to appreciate. So don't threaten me, Billy, because you're the one who's left her feeling second best at every turn." A charged silence filled the space, intensifying the tension between them. If either man made one aggressive lunge, a full-blown altercation would erupt in a matter of seconds. But Billy clenched his jaw, turning away before storming down the corridor. For him, the argument settled nothing, it only hardened his resolve to keep Daniel away from Sally at all costs. Phyllis and Billy, an unbreakable partnership, or a powder keg? Ironically, Billy's spat with Daniel occurred against the backdrop of several intertwined projects that he and Phyllis were managing. Despite the bitter echoes of their past and a tenuous present, they couldn't simply extricate themselves from working together without jeopardizing major contracts and shared ambitions. The forced proximity drove Sally to frustration, prompting repeated arguments between her and Billy. From Sally's point of view, Billy's unwillingness or inability to fire Phyllis or otherwise distance himself from her professional entanglements was not just inconvenient, it was emblematic of a larger pattern in Billy's life: indecision, divided loyalties, and an inability to fully commit to anyone or anything. "If you won't choose me over Phyllis now," Sally snapped during a late-night quarrel at the office, "when will you ever do it? How am I supposed to trust that I matter to you if you keep relitigating old relationships?" "This isn't about Phyllis," Billy countered, trying to keep his voice calm but failing. "This is about business, about major deals we can't just walk away from. Don't make it personal." Sally's silence was damning, a statement on its own. Billy's attempts to compartmentalize everything, Phyllis's business, their personal relationship, only made her feel more like an afterthought. As the argument escalated, Sally finally broke it off, leaving Billy standing alone in the dimly lit conference room, questioning every choice he had made in recent months. The bigger picture: as these personal dramas collided, Genoa City braced for the next wave of conflict, the reverberations from which would be felt across corporate boardrooms, living rooms, and every hidden corner of the city. Victor's obsession with crushing Jack, fueled by jealousy over Nikki, threatened to destabilize alliances and shatter the fragile peace that occasionally descended on Newman Enterprises. Devon's warnings to Lily, and Lily's increasing closeness to Damian, hinted at a brand-new wildcard that could reshape corporate acquisitions or personal relationships, nobody could quite predict which. Billy's protective stance towards Sally and confrontation with Daniel signaled that the fight for Sally's heart was far from over. But the bigger question was whether Billy could offer Sally the commitment she needed, or if Daniel's quiet but persistent presence would eventually win her over. All the while, Phyllis loomed as a disruptor, her partnership with Billy too entrenched to be dissolved cleanly, and her own hidden motives an ongoing source of suspicion for many. For the time being, Lily carried on, brushing aside the controversy surrounding her budding association with Damian. She had never been one to be swayed by public opinion alone, and if aligning with Damian served her ends, whether those ends were personal, corporate, or somewhere in between, she was willing to endure the disapproval of fans and bystanders alike.